Hey everyone, this is Matt, and in today's video we will be doing our ban list, Yu-Gi-Oh! Ban list prediction for the TCG for May 2022. Alright, so we were not told when we're going to receive our next ban list. So, because the last ban list was late, quote unquote, like it came out after the date that was listed on the website, now the website just says, oh, in the next few months we'll get a ban list, right? This is from back from February, or January, February. So we don't really know exactly when the ban list will drop, but given that it's roughly on a 3 to 4 month cycle, and the OCG already got their ban list, I think it's safe to say that we'll be seeing our ban list very soon. So the first prediction that I'm going to put out right now is the ban list will drop, like it will be announced before Ghost from the Past 2 officially releases. So by the end of April, right? So that's next week. But it will not actually go into effect until May. My guess is after Ghost from the Past releases, which is 2 releases, which is in the beginning of May. So that's my prediction. All right. So seeing as how that is my prediction, and we'll be seeing, if my prediction is correct, we'll be seeing a ban list announcement very, very soon, right? So just like I did for the last ban list, I'm going to be doing my two things in this video. First, I'm going to be going through each of the lists, right? The unlimited list, the semi-limited list, the limit list, and the forbidden list, and talking about cards that should be banned or limited or unlimited or whatever. As in like these are pretty good potential candidates for the list. But then I'm going to give a secondary prediction, which is my actual prediction of, all right, I don't believe Konami has the guts to be this bold, so here's my secondary prediction. So yeah, for those of you who watched my last list, I hope you enjoyed that. Recall that in my last list, I said that Pot of Desires should be limited to 1, and guess what happened in the last ban list? Pot of Desires got limited to 1, so how about that, right? Anyway, so just like in the previous video that I made, I'm going to start with the unlimited lists first, and then work my way towards the ban list, right? Just to keep people in suspense. All right, so let's start with the unlimited list. Cards that should go to 3, in my opinion. All right, here we go. So the first 3 on the list are probably the most obvious ones. So Scapegoat to 3, Hero Lives to 3, Salomon Great Circle to 3. These are pretty obvious, just like I mentioned in my previous video. These 3 cards were, in the last list, semi-limited to 2. So they used to be limited to 1, now they're semi-limited to 2. And since they've been semi-limited to 2, nothing really changed, right? They weren't meta impacting, they're not broken cards. And just like I mentioned before, so the TCG, like in Yu-Gi-Oh, they very rarely use the semi-limit list to keep cards on there for very long. Like, usually any card that goes to the semi-limit list are destined to be either limited or unlimited by the following list, right? We've seen these with like the Pendulum Monsters, Skullcrow Bat Joker, right? The other one, I forgot, the Magician, Pendulum Magician, right? Nessie, right? A number of cards use the semi-limit list as a stepping stone to get to either 1 or 3. So, because all these 3 cards are semi-limited in the last list, I think it's very safe to say that these would and should be unlimited in the upcoming May 2022 ban list, right? So, yeah, I don't think anyone can really argue with this. I would be very surprised if Konami cut them on there for another ban list cycle when like there's no indication that it really impacted anything or like broke any aspect of the game. All right, now we're gonna get into my spicy predictions. Like these are cards that aren't necessarily going to be unlimited, although some of them might. But I think should be unlimited. So I think Upstart Goblin should go to 3. Yeah, fellow Dark Magician players, this would be amazing. This would make it. This would become an easy 3 of in our deck, right? It's really good. I don't see any reason why this card should be at 1. I mean, there's way more broken like draw cards in the game. Upstart Goblin is already unlimited to 3 in the OCG, and it's not a broken card at all. So I think this is fine. I don't know why Konami doesn't do it. Hopefully they just wake up one day and realize, oh wait, why is Upstart Goblin at 1? Yeah, let's put that at 3. It's at 3 in Master Duel, and it's perfectly fine. Nobody complains about Upstart Goblin being at 3 in any format where it's actually at 3, like Master Duel, OCG, etc. So, yeah, Konami, wake up. Put this at 3, please. All right, the next 2, which are the spicy takes, which everyone's gonna complain about or have their own takes about. Call by the Grave to 3 and Max C to 3. All right, so. Do I actually think these 2 will go to 3? Probably not, because Konami is cowardly, right? But do I think should they go to 3? Yes, they should. In fact, they should come back to 3 together, right? Because max call by counters max C, right? Um, like you should not pull max C at 3 and leave call by at 1. That'd be silly, right? But I definitely think you can put both of these at 3, just to shake up the game. Like I feel like I don't know, it would make the game more interesting. Yeah, Call by the Grave does screw like Eldritch decks. Like I play Eldritch. Seeing more Call by the Graves would be really, really bad for Eldritch, right? Which I'm okay with, honestly. Like Eldritch is a strong deck. Like if Eldritch has to die so that Call by the Grave can be at 3, so be it, right? So, I think that's a worthwhile trade. But I don't think Konami is actually going to do this. They're pretty cowardly, and yeah. But I mean, Call by is at 2 in the OCG, it's fine there, and Maxi's at 3, and it's fine there. So anyway, yeah, I've already talked about these in my previous prediction. All right, so let's talk about the Unlimited list, what I actually predict Konami will do. So the first 3 cards I talked about, Scapegoat, Hero Lives, and Solemn Great Circle, I can actually see them putting him at 3, and I can actually see them putting Upstart at 3 as well. This is just one of those cards, kind of like Skill Drain, which like just slipped through the cracks and has been at 1 for a long time, and nobody really knows why, or like there's no real good reason for it. And some people like complain, oh, Skill Drain at 3. It's like, yeah, it's at 3. So and yet Eldritch decks have yet to win a single major event, right? Like there hasn't. They got close. They got second place, but no cigar, right? So, I don't feel like skill drain decks are taking over the meta. Um, it's also pretty interesting to see decks like Prank Kids who can play skill drain playing it. Like Blue Eyes decks are obviously playing it. Dark Magician played skill drain, right? Yeah, so that like skill drain is a more like empower card, whereas Upstart is nowhere near as good as skill drain, and yet it's at 1. Like what's the deal with that, right? So yeah, definitely think this should go to 3, 100%. And I could actually see Konami doing this because there's no reason not to at this point. Anyway, all right. Next up, let's go to the semi-limited. So cards that at 2. So I will go to my wish list, right, of cards that I think should go to 2, right? And yeah, so here I have Call by the Grave again. Similar logic to my last video. Call by the Grave is at 2 and the OCG is fine. I think Konami should try it at 2 and like put Call by in the waiting room of a 2 of instead of a 1 of in transition towards being a 1 of. Like if I don't get it at a 3 of, I'm okay getting it at 2 of, right? It's such a great card. Yeah, it's one of my favorite cards in the game. But yeah, put this at 2, Konami, please. Like let's just do it. No more call by at 1. All right. And then the other 2, Water Enchantress and Rite of Aramesir. So the Adventure Engine is way too consistent. Basically, the way with the current ratio is like 3 Enchantress, 3 Rites, right? And then you have like a Foolish Barrow, and then you maybe have a Beatrice or whatever. Like, there's multiple ways to access the engine. Uh, Decks that run this engine see it like 100% of their games, right? Like it's way too consistent. The problem isn't the power level of the deck of this engine. The problem is the consistency. It's way too consistent, right? So I actually think these 2 cards should be hit harder than just at 2. But I'll take anything, any hit to the consistency of this engine, I'll be satisfied with. I think right now in the OCG, they're both at 1, and I think having them both at 1 would be better. But I would accept these at 2, and I could even see Konami putting these cards at 2 as a stepping stone for the following ban list where they'll go to 1. But like, yeah, they're way too consistent. Yeah, fuck these cards. Anyway, so let's go to the actual prediction. What I actually think Konami will do. So I actually do think. I don't think they're bold enough to put Called by a 2, but I actually do think they might put Water Enchantress and the right at a 2. So Grand Creators came out in January, right? I don't think there's any obvious or imminent reprints for these cards anytime in the near future. They're pretty expensive. Like, I don't know, I feel like Konami's sold enough Grand Creators that they can probably safely put these at 2, especially considering that like they put Fusion Destiny at 2 when they were literally about to release an Ultimate Rare reprint, right? So I think it'd be very reasonable to say that yeah, these Konami will put both of these at 2. Yeah, way too consistent. All right. So the unlimited list and the semi-limit list are probably the least interesting parts of these predictions. So let's get into the spicy stuff. The limited cards that should go to 1, starting with what I would like to see go to 1. So let's start with limited wish list. All right, there's a lot of cards here, so let's take them one step at a time. All right. So Nadir Servant and Fusion Destiny. Same argument that I used for Scapegoat and Salomon Great Circle. So last ban list, both of these cards went to 2, right? Um, and as I mentioned before, Konami uses the semi-limitless as a waiting room for cards going to 1 or 3, right? Very rarely do cards stay at 2 for a long time. Obviously, the one exception being Destiny Hero Malicious, because that's a card where like it has to be at. It's like 2 or bust, right? Like 3 is broken, 1 is useless, right? Like it has to be at 2, right? But yeah, Nadir Servant went to 2. Fusion Destiny went to 2. Yeah, I see Fusion Destiny being hard played still way too often. This needs to go to 1. Nadir Servant should also go to 1. People say, oh, but no one's really playing like Dogmatica. It doesn't matter. It's a matter of principle. Like, they should go to 1. And actually, some decks are still playing the Dogmatica package. So yeah, these two should absolutely go to 1. All right. Next cards on the list, which I would like to see. I would like to see Water Enchantress at 1 and Right at 1. So I did mention that Konami will probably put them at 2 because they like to take things slow, and eventually they'll move them to 1. Like in the OCG, they're already at 1, right? But yeah, I think at 1 would be probably the best level in terms of consistency, where like the engine is still playable, but it's not free every duel, right? Like it just feels like you see it 100% of games. You see this engine, right? Whereas if you put these both at 1, like you'll see it maybe like 1/3 of duels, right? Or like you have to do a bunch of extra steps, maybe get Beatrice, right, to actually see. But also just the follow up is just like really powerful. Like you just net so much card advantage off this engine. It's insane, right? So yeah, I want to see these two at 1. And if it's not this ban list, it will be the next one. But eventually, these cards will go to 1. Like there's no way they're gonna keep it at 3 or even at 2 for the foreseeable future. All right, Sword Soul Emergence. In my last ban list prediction video, I said that this card should go to 1, and I stand by that. I still think this card should go to 1. It's too much of a. It makes Sword Soul way too consistent. Sword Soul is already very consistent, given like all the Tenyi stuff. Now they're running the Hulk engine, right? I just feel like these really powerful one-card searchers that just get your whole thing. I don't know. I feel like they need to be limited to 1. I feel like in general, powerful link 1s and powerful search spells should just be at 1 because of how impactful they are. Like you should be able to stop it, and then like not have to deal with it again. Like if you do stop it, right, or if they use it and it succeeds, they can't repeat it in the following turn. But if they use it and you stop it with a trap or hand trap, you're not gonna have to deal with it anymore. Like that's my philosophy on that. And on that note, I also said that Magical Meltdown should go to 1 in my last video, and I stand by that. Magical Meltdown should absolutely go to 1. Yeah, I know Invoked DPE, like whatever Dogmatica deck isn't the best deck anymore, but we still see, they're still around, and I still feel like Meltdown is just way too good of a card, given that like it's not even the fact that it searches Alistair. Yeah, like searching Alistair is part of the problem, right? It makes that engine too consistent, but also it's the fact that like you can't respond to fusions, like fusion spells or like fusion monster effects on summon. Like it's insane. Like it's too much like utility out of 1 card, in my opinion. Where that just gives your opponent like no way of responding or way of dealing with it. All right, Missing Mind to 1. So I mentioned this in my previous video. I actually think Missing Mind should be banned. It's banned in the OCG. Like the fact that Missing Mind is at 3, like is mind blowing to me. Especially like I feel like the reason that this is at 3 is like makes it so that cards like Metaverse have to stay at 1. Whereas if you ban this card, I think you can put Metaverse back at like 2 or 3. But yeah, I would accept. I could see Konami putting this to 1 finally. Don't think that. I mean, they should honestly ban it, but like even hitting it to 1 is acceptable, right? Because at least like you're less likely to hard draw it, and like if you want to search for it, if you want to use your terraforming to search for it rather than searching for your main field spell, then like I think that's acceptable. All right, next card. Harpy's Featherstorm. Yeah, this only Flanders is using this now. Bird Ups no longer use it because Bird Up got nerfed into Oblivion from the last ban list, thankfully. But yeah, yeah, this card is a little too busted. I don't think it should be banned. I do think it should go to 1. Like, Flanders is already like a deck that's really good at like making sure your opponent can't do anything, and like the consistency of that has increased significantly, right? And I just feel like having this at 3 just makes it so that like, oh, they're even more like, especially with all the pot cards and stuff they have, like they're more likely to just draw into this and like play it. And oh look, you can't do anything uh harder, right? I still think this should be at 1 because I think like Rogue Harpy Lady decks should be able to search, because this is searchable off in a Rogue Harpy Lady deck, right? I still think they should be able to access this, especially since it's like not an oppressive deck like the Harpy Lady deck. And yeah, so I think should not be banned, but it should definitely go to 1. Tri Brigade Revolt. I've been calling for this card 1 for a while. Yeah, pure Tri Brigade is no longer like taking over everything, but like the fact that you can stop their Bear Broom and they probably still hard drew this anyway is kind of nuts to me. Yeah, this card should go to 1. I've been saying this forever. Hopefully they'll finally read this. All right, and then this last spicy take is branded opening to 1. Okay, branded open. That's my spicy take. Now, similar logic as Sword Soul Emergence, except I would argue branded opening is better than Sword Soul Emergence, right? Because, um, yeah. So one thing that's crazy about this card, not only is it a searcher, but like, so the card says discard 1 card, then take a Despia monster from your deck, add to your hand or special summon defense mode, right? Um, so this card can not only dodge, Droll, and Lockbird, right? It's a combo searcher starter slash searcher that can dodge, Droll, and Lockbird. Um, but you don't even discard for cost. So if you if if you get Ash on branded opening, you didn't discard anything. You just traded 1 for 1, right? Like, uh, whereas if this is discarded for cost, maybe you could argue that it's a little better. And another thing, the fact that it discards for effect rather than cost means that you can trigger like Despian Tragedy or like any other cards that have effects in the graveyard. That's like, oh, this card is sent to the graveyard by card effect, do a thing, right? Yeah, the fact that that discard is an effect, not a cost, is so freaking huge, right? Like people don't even realize how good it is, and it's a quick play, right? So you can literally dodge anti-spell fragrance, right? Uh, and if this is in your graveyard, you can basically banish it to prevent your fusion monsters from being destroyed, right? But I mean by card effect, obviously. But like I don't know, I just feel like that's way too good of a card. Okay, now people say, all right, well, hold on. Branded Despia just came out. They just released a structure deck, Albat Strike structure deck, right? They're reprinting a Luber. They're reprinting this. They're reprinting that. It would be foolish to think that it would that they would limit or hit this card so early before like we've even had time for the Despia branded format to settle. Fair enough. However, a few things I'll say. One, branded opening is not in the structure deck. Two, branded opening is not in Ghosts from the Past or any foreseeable reprint. The earliest we're going to see a reprint of branded opening is in the Megaton in September, right? Uh, three, the deck will still be good if this is at 1, right? Like, it just won't be as consistent, but it'll still be a good deck. So, I don't know. I think branded opening should go to 1, but I do think that, Konami is not bold enough to make a change like this so soon, right? They usually like to let people let it go for a format to see how this deck is too broken or too consistent. We gotta reduce this, right? All right, so this is my limit prediction: 10 cards. That's a big ask, right? To say, oh, is Konami just gonna limit 10 cards to 1? Probably not, right? So let's talk about actual prediction. So yeah, I only predict that Konami will actually limit these 4 cards. So Nadir Servant, Fusion Destiny, I already explained the logic behind it. Um, they were limited to 2, therefore they're destined to be limited to 1 in the next in an upcoming ban list. Mystic Mind to 1, I can actually see Konami doing this. Like, people have been complaining about Mystic Mind so long, right? Like, nobody likes this card. It's so degenerate. Like, this is worse than Skill Drain, right? Like, people complain about Skill Drain. Like, yo, Mystic Mind has been at 3 for so long, and Mystic Mind is straight up more degenerate than Skill Drain, all right? Um, and then Harpy's Featherstorm, because Floowandereeze is relevant still. Um, and yeah, so I definitely see these 4 cards being what they actually limit. So obviously, I don't think they're going to actually limit the right or the Water Enchantress. But then again, I feel like that's going to be a semi-limit. They've kind of been ignoring Tri Brigade and like Sword Soul, so I don't know if Emergence and Revolt will go to 1. But I could actually see Harpy's Featherstorm going to 1. And then of course my hot take on branded opening, probably not going to be limited because the deck, like the Despian branded deck, is just way too new right now. Like, I don't see them doing anything about it. But I do think that in the future, Branded opening to 1 would be could be like is a very big possibility, like real possibility, right? All right, so let's get to the ban section. Cards that should be forbidden, right? Banned to 0, unplayable. All right, so here's what I would like to see. All right, wow, I have 7 cards on my ban list. There's no way these cards, like Konami will actually ban all 7 of these cards, probably. But here's what should be banned. All right, so Artifact Scythe. Yeah, this card is degenerate. It was not broken back when like there's nothing wrong with the effect of like, oh, your opponent destroys this and then it summons back and then they're locked out of the extra deck. That's fine, right? The problem is like when you yourself pop this card or you yourself revive it from the graveyard on your opponent's turn and then locks out your opponents from the extra deck. That's a problem, right? A searchable floodgate. Searchable floodgates are always a problem, right? Arch Nemesis Protoss was a problem because it was searchable, right? Imagine if Skill Drain was searchable or Summon Limit, right? No other floodgates are this searchable. I mean, okay, you could say monsters floodgates like Winda, Schism is technically searchable, this and that, right? I mean, the Schism Winda thing is being dealt with via Nadir Servant limits, but anyway, yeah, this is a searchable floodgate with a lingering effect, right? So it's not even like if you imperm or negate this later. No, it's a lingering effect, right? Yeah, this card needs to be banned. People say that, oh well, it was just reprinted as a common in the Outback Strike structure deck. Yeah, as a common, not a freaking ulti rare. Like, okay, guys, people are not buying the Outback Strike structure deck to get Artifact Scythe. They're buying it for the other obvious like branded Despia goodies that are in there. The fact that Artifact Scythe is a common in a structure deck is completely irrelevant. First of all, the structure deck came out this month, right? It's not coming out next month, right? So it's people have already bought it. It's already been plenty of sales. If this card gets banned, people are still going to buy it. It's not going to affect sales whatsoever, right? I mean, maybe you could argue, well, what about new players getting into the game? They won't be able to play this in their deck. Yeah, that's true. And that would be the only reason I would say like Scythe will not get banned. And instead, they're probably going to do Dagda, like Artifact Dagda, right? So Scythe is searchable primarily thanks to Dagda. I mean, it can also be searched via, you send it to the graveyard with like Foolish Burial or maybe like Beatrice, and then you revive it like somehow on your opponent's turn, right? Either way, Scythe should be banned, right? Like it should have been banned last list. For some reason, someone at Konami dropped the ball. Maybe they woke up late for the meeting. Whatever. Like this should be banned. All right. Next, Water Entrenchers. Hold on, Water Entrenchers banned. What's up with this? All right. So here's my thoughts. So I think personally, there's 2 ways to deal with the Adventure Engine. Either you put Water Entrenchers and Rite of Artemisier at 1 each, or you keep Rite of Artemisier at 3 and you put Water Entrenchers to 0, right? Like that would significantly hit the consistency of the engine without killing it. It's still playable. It'll still be able to do stuff. You just won't be able to see it in 100% of your games, right? Like which is basically the case now. Like if you have this in your deck, you see it every game. Like it's absurd. So yeah. So yeah, Konami, if you're not unsure of how you should deal with if you're watching this, because I know I'm a big time YouTuber, right? Yugi YouTuber. Yeah, 2 ways to deal with the Adventure Engine. Either ban Water Enchantress and keep right at 3, or put Water Enchantress or right at 1 each. The world's your oyster. I will accept either outcome. All right. Yeah, because Water Enchantress is definitely more of a problem card than the Rite of Artemisier because she can be sent off Foolish, she can be sent off Beatrice. You can discard her for fodder, and she's always live. Like, and she can be searched off Faithful. It's way too good of a card. Like, way better than the Rite of Artemisier, right? Anyway, Magical Meltdown and Mystic Mind to 0. So I mentioned in the last that I think that Mystic Mind and Meltdown should go to 1. I actually think they should go to 0. But just in case Konami doesn't want to put them to 0, at least put them to 1. For the love of God, right? Red reboot to 0. Ooh, there's my spicy take. All right. So people, oh, you're saying that because you played Eldritch. I mean, yes, I play Eldritch, but guess what? I also advocate for Called by the Grave at 3. So that's not a good argument, right? Like so obviously if I was an Eldritch shill, right, I would say Red reboot to 0 and Called by to 0, right? Like why would I want Called by the Grave at 3 if I'm that much of a shill? Because like Called by the Grave I think is a fair card. I don't think Red reboot is a fair card. And remember, oh, how is Red Reboot different from Skill Drain? I'll tell you how. First of all, if you Red Reboot a control deck, and you're a combo deck, you just win immediately. Like you're gonna summon up monsters, you're gonna OTK, and the game is gonna be over. If you're a control deck and you flip skill drain on an opposing combo deck, A, the game is not necessarily over. B, most control decks do not have OTK capability. And C, skill drain can be played around, right? Like, it's not, you can still use hand effects. You can still use graveyard effects. You can still send your monsters on the field to the graveyard or, like, get them off the field after activating effect to dodge skill drain. There's so many ways to dodge skill drain. Like, skill drain is a fair card. And guess what? There's plenty of back row removal. What's the removal for red reboot, right? Basically, Solemn Judgment is the only way to stop this card. That's it, right? So you have to have Solemn Judgment, so 1 of 3, right? So I don't know. It's not enough counterplay. If there was more counterplay to Red Reboot, if it was a regular trap, if it wasn't a counter trap, or maybe what if it had to be set before it could be activated, rather than activating it straight from your hand? Then yes, I would say put this bad boy at 3, right? Like, but the fact that it can be activated from your hand and it almost immediately leads to an OTK or like the combo player who plays is just winning the game means I think that this card should go to 0. Yeah, I don't think it's good for the game. Just there's not enough counterplay for it. All right, next extra deck bans. So, Crystron Halki Fibrax needs to be banned. Because of this, so many other tuners have been banned, right? Yeah, this card, and now Crystron Halki Fibrax, like, not only was it already being abused for link climb and access code, which, hey guys, I don't mind the ability to link climb into access code, right? Link climb, there's so many different ways to link climb into access code. You don't like. I'm not saying Crystron Halki Fibrax should be banned because of link climbing into access code. I'm saying that it should be banned because of how it enables the Auroradon combo, which is just significantly like boosts the power of synchro summoning and synchro decks with very almost no cost, basically, right? So I think this card should be banned. Will it be banned? Probably no. Why? Because it's being reprinted and goes from the past 2, and Riot. I play League of Riot Games, Konami, both terrible companies. But yeah, not Riot Games, Konami. Probably not going to ban this. They would rather ban a bunch of tuners instead, or like beat around the problem. So I don't see this actually happening. Predaplant Verte Anaconda. Yes, I am a Dark Magician player. Yes, I think Predaplant Verte Anaconda should be banned. I don't think it's healthy for the game. Now, I don't know if my fellow Dark Magician players will crucify me for this. I think the deck will still be playable without Anaconda. Won't be as consistent, obviously. Won't be as good, but you can still have good fusion decks without relying on Anaconda. Just look at Branded. Branded doesn't use Anaconda at all, or very rarely, right? Like, and they still have a pretty good fusion deck, right? Look at Pure Shaddolls, right? Or Invoked. You don't really need Anaconda for the deck to still be good. The problem with Anaconda is like, it's like, oh, all my other combos and stuff got stopped. I'm just gonna go into Anaconda and get Destiny Hero, Phoenix Enforcer, right? It's just like, I don't know, way too much failsafe, right? And I don't think like fusion monsters should be so splashable in any deck, right? Um, so yeah, unfortunately, I think Anaconda has to go. Anaconda was banned in the OCG, so as much as I like this card and I use it myself, I do think it's unhealthy for the game. Yeah, so can't call me can't accuse me of being biased because I do recognize when a card is objectively bad for a game. Anyway, so this is my wish list of cards I think should be banned. So let's look at cards what might actually get banned, right? Bam, 3 cards. Okay, I can actually see Konami banning Mystic Mine. That's actually a card that I would not be surprised if they banned it, right? And then the other 2 cards, which are basically cop-outs, right? Instead of banning Artifact Scythe, I can see them banning Dagda, because, like I said, the only reason they would keep Scythe is for another format is because, well, the structure deck has a common one, and we want new players to be able to buy the structure deck and immediately be able to play with the card, and if one of the cards is banned, then they can't do that, right? So, yeah. I mean, I said the searchability of the Floodgate was unhealthy, so let's get rid of Dagda. Why not? I can see Konami getting rid of Dagda instead of Scythe. Only problem is that obviously this hurts like rogue decks that use artifact rogue decks or whatever. Well, tough luck. Sorry, artifact players. I would prefer if you had Dagda, you kept Dagda and had Scythe banned, but unfortunately, one of those cards has to die so that the game can actually like improve health, right? And then of course Auroradon. Auroradon is not at the actual problem card. Crystron Halky Fibrax is, but if they want to just sell Crystron Halky Fibrax because of the reprint and Ghost from the Past, I can see them banning Auroradon instead. And then they think, well, no one's playing Mecha Phantom Beast anyway. That archetype is bad and dead, so we're just going to ban this card so that Crystron Halky Fibrax can't abuse it anymore with the Despot combo. So yeah, I can see Konami doing something as sleazy and slimy as this, right? Two cards that don't deserve to get banned, right? But they'll ban just because of like their product release schedules or whatever. But hey, prove me wrong, Konami. If you actually go ahead and ban Crystron and Scythe, I'll on my next video I'll post a full dedicated apology video apologizing for calling you guys sleazy and slimy, right? And Craven. Oh, and Craven too. Yeah, you're also Craven. So these are cards I can actually see getting banned, and it is actually worthy of like a solid prediction, I think. All right. So yeah, so that's what I think. Obviously, like we're kind of like in starting a new format. I'm sure a lot of people will start screaming for Brandon and Despia stuff to be hit on the subsequent ban list. I already threw out my 10 cents. If you want to preemptively hit that, go for the Branded Opening. Branded Opening is the card that significantly increases consistency and power level of the deck, right? Of the Branded Despia. Like imagine if they didn't have an easy way to discard Despian Tragedy, or imagine if they didn't have like such an easy searcher, or imagine if they didn't have destruction protection for all their fusion monsters, right? Like again, I'm saying this should go to 1. I'm not saying it should be banned. I still think it's a good card to exist in the game. I don't think it's that unhealthy. It's just a consistency thing, right? So anyway. All right, so those are my predictions. Hopefully so stay tuned for May, which is when I actually think the ban list. So my prediction was ban list is going to drop, like they're going to announce it next week, but it's not going to be into effect till May. So yeah, when they announce it, I'll put a reaction video saying how right it was, or how much of a sorcerer I am, right? How big my galaxy brain is. But until then, yeah, let me know what you think in the comment section. I remember in the last ban list video, people shat on me for a number of reasons. I even remember being made fun of for my Pot of Desires prediction being limited to 1. Some people were like called me crazy for that, right? And yet, lo and behold, it freaking happened, right? So I don't know, just saying, like if you actually stop and sit down and analyze like the health state of the game, like yeah, you can kind of see some of these cards being problematic and worthy of being banned or limited or whatever. Anyway. Alright, so hope y'all enjoyed. Thank y'all for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace.